It was a cold night in the valley. Snowflakes drifted in the air like soft ash, and the sound of music came from the village below. The annual Lantern Festival had begun. Lanterns of every color floated in the dark sky. People laughed, children ran, and the smell of warm bread filled the streets. Liora walked quietly through the crowd, holding a paper lantern close to her chest. It had one word written on it: Mother. Her mother had passed away last winter, and this was the first festival without her. Every year they used to come together. Her mother would laugh, sing old songs, and tell her that lanterns helped lost souls find their way home. Now Liora stood alone. She walked to the river, where people were letting their lanterns float away. The water glowed from the lights above, like another sky trapped beneath the surface. As she was about to set her lantern down, a voice spoke from behind her. "Your lantern looks too heavy to fly." Liora turned. A young man stood there, tall and calm. His hair was dark, his coat long and lined with silver. His eyes were gray-blue, bright but tired, like someone who hadn't slept in years. "What do you mean?" she asked. He smiled a little. "It won't rise if you fill it with too many wishes." She looked at her lantern and laughed softly. "Maybe you're right. But I only made one wish." He raised an eyebrow. "For who?" "My mother," she said quietly. His smile faded. "That's a kind wish." They stood side by side, watching lanterns float up into the cold night sky. After a while she asked, "What's your name?" "Aaron," he said. "And yours?" "Liora." He repeated it softly, almost like he was remembering something. "Liora. That's a beautiful name." They walked together through the festival. The path was filled with glowing lights and the sound of bells. Children played near the fire. Old women sold tea in small cups. Somewhere in the distance, a flute played a slow tune. Aaron didn't talk much, but when he did, his words felt careful and gentle. He asked about her home, her family, her favorite part of the festival. She found herself smiling again, really smiling, for the first time since her mother's death. As they passed a group of people dancing, he stopped and looked at her. "Do you dance?" She shook her head. "No, I'd just step on your feet." He laughed softly. "Then we'll both be terrible." She laughed too, and for a few seconds the sadness in her chest disappeared. When midnight came, everyone gathered by the river to release their last lanterns. The moon was full and bright, painting the snow with silver light. Aaron still held his lantern. It was different from the others, darker, made with thin silver lines and strange markings. Liora looked at it curiously. "Aren't you going to light it?" He stared at it for a long time. "I don't think it will listen to me." She frowned. "Why not?" "It's meant for someone who has already forgotten me." Leora's heart tightened a little. "Maybe it'll remember if we light it together." He looked at her, really looked, then gave her a small nod. When she touched the lantern, their fingers brushed. His hand was cold, almost freezing, but she didn't pull away. She lit the small flame inside. For a second, the silver on his coat shone faintly in the dark. The lantern rose slowly, drifting up with the others. "See?" she whispered. "It worked." Aaron's eyes followed it as it climbed higher and higher. "Some lights," he said softly. "Don't come back." The crowd began to fade. The festival lights dimmed, and the last song ended. Liora turned to him. "Do you live nearby?" He smiled a little. "I used to." "What do you mean?" "I lived here long ago," he said. Something in his tone made her chest ache. Before she could ask more, the wind rose and fog began to roll down from the hills. Aaron took a slow step back. "I should go." "Wait," Liora said. "Will I see you again?" He paused in the mist. His voice came soft and far away. "Only if you keep your lantern burning." Then he was gone. Liora stood there alone as the fog moved through the trees. Her lantern's light shimmered across the water. For a moment, she saw something strange, Aaron's reflection beside hers, and then it vanished. That night, she dreamed of a ruined chapel buried in snow. She saw Aaron there, standing in the cold wind, eyes closed, as if waiting for someone. When she woke, her window was open, and outside, sitting in the snow, was the same lantern they had lit together, still glowing. The next morning, the world was silent. The snow had stopped, and the village looked like it was trapped in glass. Liora put on her boots and stepped outside. The cold air bit her cheeks, but she hardly noticed. Her eyes were fixed on the lantern sitting in the snow, the same one she had released last night with Aaron. She bent down and touched it. The paper wasn't wet or torn. It was warm, like it had been lit only moments ago. She whispered, "How did you come back?" No answer, only the soft sound of wind between the trees. She looked toward the forest beyond the river. That was where Aaron had vanished. Something inside her, a small voice she couldn't ignore, told her to go there. By the time she reached the edge of the forest, the sky had turned gray. The trees stood tall and dark, their branches heavy with snow. She followed a narrow path that led deeper into the woods. Every step crunched softly under her boots. The deeper she went, the quieter it became, until all she could hear was her own breathing. After a while, she saw something ahead, the shape of a building hidden between the trees. It was an old chapel. Days passed, but Liora couldn't forget him. She tried to live as before, visiting the market, helping the old healer, lighting her lantern each night. But everything reminded her of that night in the snow. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the chapel. Every time the wind blew through her window, she heard his voice. The villagers said she looked pale and tired, but Liora didn't care. All she could think about was the way he had said, "Keep your lantern burning." So she did. Every night she lit it before bed, and every night it burned with the same silver light, never weaker, never fading. One evening, as the sky turned purple, she noticed something strange. The flame inside the lantern flickered in a rhythm, soft, then strong, soft again, almost like a heartbeat. She leaned closer. "Aaron?" The flame flashed once, bright enough to fill the room with white light. Liora blinked, and suddenly she wasn't in her house anymore. She was standing in a field covered in snow. The air was still, the moon was high, and in the distance she saw a faint glow. The old chapel. Her hands trembled around the lantern. She whispered, "Not again." But her feet were already moving. The chapel looked the same. Broken roof, cracked walls, silver lanterns around the altar. But this time the air was warm, and she could hear faint whispers, voices of people she couldn't see. As she stepped closer, the lanterns lit one by one until the whole place shone like morning light, and then she saw him. Aaron stood near the altar, his eyes closed, his coat torn and faded. He looked almost human again. But the silver light pulsed beneath his skin, faint and soft. Liora ran to him. "Aaron!" He opened his eyes slowly. When he saw her, his face filled with both joy and fear. "You shouldn't be here again," he said. His voice was low, broken. "The world doesn't remember this place anymore." She shook her head. "I kept the lantern burning, just like you asked." He looked at her, his eyes glimmering. "That's why I'm still here." Liora stepped closer. "Then tell me the truth. Who are you really?" Aaron hesitated. The light in his chest flickered. "I was a soldier once," he said. "A long time ago. When this valley was still at war, she stayed quiet, listening. I led men into battles that should have never happened. I watched my people die, my friends, my brother. And when I was the last one left, I swore I'd never let another soul die alone." He looked toward the lanterns. So I made a wish that I could keep their light safe, that I could hold their souls until peace returned. Liora whispered, and it came true? He nodded, but not the way I hoped. The wish bound me to this place. Every 100 years, I wake when someone lights a lantern with my mark, and when they do, I remember. Leora's eyes filled with tears. You've been alone all this time? He smiled faintly. Not anymore. The light inside the chapel dimmed. The whispers grew softer. Aaron looked at her, his face calm but tired. The light's fading again. You have to go before it dies. She shook her head. No, not without you. He stepped closer and touched her shoulder gently. If you stay, your soul will bind here too. You'll fade just like me. I don't care, she said. You waited 100 years. You shouldn't have to wait alone again. Aaron's hand fell to his side. Liora. He spoke her name like it hurt. I'm not meant to be saved. The floor trembled. The lanterns began to flicker wildly. A cold wind filled the chapel, blowing out the lights one by one. Liora reached out and grabbed his hand. Then let me share your light. Aaron froze. If you do this, you won't wake again. She met his eyes. Then we'll sleep together. He stared at her for a long time, and then slowly he smiled. For the first time, it wasn't a sad smile. He placed his hand over the glowing flame inside her lantern. The light flared, spreading through both of them, silver, soft, endless. The walls cracked. The roof began to fall. But neither of them moved. He whispered, "Thank you for remembering me." And she whispered, "Always." The light burst, swallowing them both. When the storm cleared, the chapel was gone. Only the snow remained. And in the center of the field, a single silver lantern burned, brighter than the stars above. It never went out. And the villagers who passed through the valley would sometimes say they saw two shapes walking through the mist. A man and a woman, hand in hand, glowing faintly in the dark. The roof was broken, and snow had gathered on the fallen stones. The wooden doors were covered in frost, and a single bell hung crooked from the tower. Leora's heart started to beat faster. This was the place from her dream. She pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, echoing through the cold air. Inside, everything was still. The floor was covered with leaves and broken glass. A row of benches stood half buried under snow that had drifted in through the roof, and at the front, near the altar, someone had placed dozens of small silver lanterns, all dark and cold. Liora stepped closer. Her breath showed in the air. Each lantern had a name scratched on it. She read them softly. Elsa, Mirren, Thane. Her voice stopped when she saw the last one. It said, Liora. Her hands began to shake. What is this? Then she heard it, footsteps behind her. She turned quickly. Aaron stood in the doorway. His coat was covered in snow, his face pale. But his eyes, those same gray-blue eyes, looked softer now, sadder. You shouldn't have come here, he said quietly. Liora stared at him. You disappeared. And the lantern came back. I needed to know why he stepped closer. Some things shouldn't be remembered. Then why did you let me find you? She asked. He didn't answer at first. His jaw tightened like he was fighting with himself. Finally, he said, because I wanted to see the light again. Even if it hurts. Liora frowned. Aaron, what are you talking about? He looked toward the altar where her name was carved into the lantern. Do you know what this place is? She shook her head. It was a resting place, he said slowly, for the ones I couldn't save. The wind howled through the broken windows. Liora felt a chill run through her spine. What do you mean? She whispered. He looked at her with eyes that seemed older than the world. Liora, I died here 100 years ago. She stared at him, frozen in place. That's not possible, she said. You were with me last night. I know, he said softly, because the lanterns let me return, once every 100 years during the Festival of Light. When someone writes their name with the same mark, Leora's heart pounded. The mark? He nodded. The way you wrote your mother's name. It was the same symbol my people used long ago. That's how the lantern found me. Leora's voice trembled. So, what are you now? Aaron looked away. A memory that refused to fade. The words hung in the cold air like smoke. I didn't mean to pull you into this, he said. But when you lit my lantern, it woke me. Liora took a step closer. Then why didn't you tell me? He smiled sadly. Would you have believed me? She didn't answer. She couldn't. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. You shouldn't be here. Every soul tied to this place fades when the lanterns die. If you stay too long, you'll fade too. Liora shook her head. I'm not leaving without you. Aaron looked at her with quiet pain. You can't save someone who's already gone. She walked closer until she was standing right in front of him. Her eyes were wet. Then let me remember you. That's enough. He froze. For a moment, neither of them moved. The snow fell silently through the broken roof. Then Aaron reached out, slowly, and touched her cheek. His hand was cold, but gentle. Liora, he whispered, don't cry. Before she could speak, he leaned forward and kissed her, soft, brief, and full of every word he couldn't say. The lanterns on the altar flickered to life. Silver light filled the chapel. Then everything went white. When the light faded, Liora was standing outside the forest again. The sun was rising, the snow was melting, the village bells rang in the distance. She turned around, but the path to the chapel was gone. She ran, searching, calling his name. But there was only mist and silence. And when she finally stopped, her hands were trembling. In her palm was a small silver thread, torn from Aaron's coat. She looked at it, whispering, I'll keep the lantern burning. Snow began to fall again, soft and slow, like the sky itself was sighing. But this time, Liora didn't wake up in her house. She didn't wake up anywhere. When she opened her eyes, she stood in a field of silver grass, glowing faintly under a sky filled with lanterns. Thousands of them floated overhead, painting the world in light. She looked down at her hands. They were warm, and she could see faint threads of silver under her skin. Aaron, she called. His voice came from behind her. You found me again. She turned quickly. He was there, real, whole, no longer pale. His coat was gone, replaced by simple clothes that shimmered faintly in the lantern glow. Liora ran to him, laughing and crying at once. You're real. We're still here. He smiled softly. We are. But this isn't the world we left. She frowned. Then where are we? Aaron looked around, his eyes calm, somewhere between light and memory. The place where forgotten souls rest. She took his hand. Are we dead? He hesitated, then said gently, No. We're remembered. They walked together through the glowing field. The lanterns drifted slowly above them, their light warm and quiet. Every few steps, Liora saw shapes, people made of light, smiling softly as they passed by. Aaron explained, These are the ones the lanterns carried. The souls that found peace. She looked around in wonder. It's beautiful. It wasn't always, he said quietly. It used to be cold and empty. Until you came, Liora squeezed his hand. Then we'll fill it together. He looked at her, and for the first time, his eyes held no sadness, only calm. As they walked, a strange sound filled the air, a deep hum, like music coming from the earth itself. Aaron stopped and turned. Do you hear that? Liora nodded. It's beautiful. But it feels sad. Aaron's face grew thoughtful. It means A new lantern has been lit. She blinked. But we're here. Who could have lit it? He turned toward the distant horizon. There, far away, a single silver light rose into the sky. Leora's chest tightened. Someone else found the mark. He nodded slowly. Someone's calling to us. They began walking toward the light. The field of lanterns stretched on forever, glowing softly around them. As they walked, the air changed, the warmth faded, and a cold wind began to blow. The ground turned from silver to gray, and the light dimmed. Liora stopped. "Aaron!" "What's happening?" He looked at the sky. "This light. It's not pure. Someone has lit the mark with anger." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said softly, "that whoever called us isn't searching for peace. They're searching for power." A sharp sound broke the air, like glass shattering. The sky cracked, and a shadow spread through the clouds, dark and wide. From the broken light above, something began to fall. Black feathers, each one glowing faintly red. Aaron's eyes hardened. "Stay behind me." A figure stepped out of the fog ahead, tall, dressed in a long, dark cloak, their face hidden beneath a hood. In their hand burned a lantern, but its flame was black. The figure spoke, voice calm and cold. "So you're the ones the stories spoke of." Aaron narrowed his eyes. "Who are you?" The stranger lifted the black lantern. "My name is Callan." The last lightkeeper, Liora took a step back. "Lightkeeper?" Callan's voice echoed softly. "Before your time, I was like you, bound to the lanterns. But while you prayed for peace, I prayed for truth. And truth always comes with shadow." Aaron's eyes darkened. "You're the reason the field is fading?" Callan smiled faintly. "No, I'm the reason it still exists." He tilted the lantern. The black flame inside pulsed like a heartbeat. "Do you know what happens when a soul refuses to rest?" "It breaks the light apart, turns it into something new." Liora whispered, "Something like you?" He nodded. "Something stronger." Aaron stepped forward. "If you came here for us, you'll be disappointed." Callan's eyes glowed faintly red beneath his hood. "Oh, I didn't come for you. I came for her." Liora froze. "Me?" He pointed at her lantern, which she still held tightly in her hand. "That flame doesn't belong here. It bridges two worlds. With it, I can open the gate." Aaron moved between them. "Over my dead body." Callan tilted his head. "That can be arranged." The wind rose sharply, scattering feathers and snow. The lanterns above began to dim one by one. Liora held her lantern close. "Aaron." He turned to her, his eyes soft but fierce. "Whatever happens, don't let go of that light." Callan lifted his black lantern high. The ground split, and a ring of red fire spread out around him. Aaron drew a faint silver blade from the light itself, the same way one might draw a memory. "Stay back," he said. The two lights, one silver, one black, collided in a blinding flash. The sound shook the air, and every lantern in the sky flickered. Liora fell to her knees, covering her face. When she looked up again, Aaron and Callan were gone, swallowed by the storm of light and shadow. "Aaron!" she screamed. No answer, only the sound of shattering light. The storm raged around her. Light and shadow spun together, twisting like a living thing. The ground beneath her feet cracked open, revealing nothing but endless white. "Aaron!" she shouted again, her voice breaking through the roar. But only echoes answered, faint, hollow, and strange. She clutched her lantern tighter. The silver flame inside flickered wildly, reacting to the chaos. Then she heard a faint whisper, "Liora?" Her heart jumped. "Aaron?" The whisper came again, softer this time. "Follow the flame." She took a shaky breath and looked down at her lantern. The light within was pointing in one direction, like a compass made of fire. Without thinking, She followed. The storm thickened as she walked. Feathers and embers rained down around her, burning and melting in the air. The sky above tore apart, showing glimpses of places she didn't understand. An old town, a child's laughter, a burning forest. They flashed and vanished like broken memories. Her boots sank into the soft white ground. She felt small, lost, but she kept moving. Finally, she saw something in the distance, a faint silver glow, steady amid the chaos. "Aaron," she whispered, and began to run. She found him kneeling on the ground, his blade broken, his coat torn, his hand pressed against his side, blood dripping between his fingers. "Aaron," she cried, running to him. He looked up, trying to smile. "Told you not to follow me." She dropped beside him, holding his face. "You think I'd ever listen?" He let out a weak laugh, then winced. "Callan, he's—" A voice interrupted him. "Still here." Liora turned sharply. Callan stood a few feet away, his hood now lowered. His face was pale and scarred, but his eyes were red like glowing coals. "I didn't want to hurt him," Callan said softly, "but the gate requires sacrifice." Liora rose to her feet. "You talk about peace and truth, but all you bring is pain." Callan's expression remained calm. "You mistake destruction for evil. Sometimes light must break to reveal what's hidden." Aaron tried to stand, but his legs shook. "You're not opening anything, Callan." Callan raised his black lantern again, its light pulsing. "It's already opening." Liora turned. Behind him, the storm was twisting into a massive ring of light, black and silver threads spinning together, forming what looked like a doorway. It hummed like a heartbeat. Aaron gritted his teeth. "The Gate of Lanterns?" Liora frowned. "What is it?" He looked at her with tired eyes. "It's where every forgotten soul goes. It's supposed to stay closed, to keep peace between the living and the lost." Callan smiled faintly. "And yet, here we are, tearing it open." The ground trembled. Lanterns above began falling from the sky, their flames bursting into sparks before vanishing. Liora looked at the falling lights and felt her heart break. "You're killing them." Callan's voice softened. "No, Liora. I'm freeing them. Don't you understand? The light isn't meant to be caged forever. Every soul deserves to choose." She stepped forward. "You think they want this chaos? You're not freeing them. You're erasing them." For the first time, Callan's calm faded. His voice rose. "You speak like someone who's never been forgotten." The words cut deep. Liora froze, her breath catching. He continued, quieter now. "Do you know what it feels like to be remembered by no one? To fade until even your own shadow forgets you?" Leora's voice trembled. You were one of them." Callan nodded. "A light keeper who lost his light. I begged the sky to remember me, but it didn't, so I built my own flame." He raised the black lantern high. "And I will never let it die again." Aaron's voice, weak but firm, cut through the air. "You turned your pain into poison." Callan's eyes narrowed. "And you turned your guilt into worship." Liora stood between them. "Stop! This isn't what the lanterns were meant for." Callan looked at her, and something in his expression softened. A faint sadness beneath the anger. "Then show me what they are meant for." Before she could move, he threw the black lantern toward her. It shattered in the air, releasing a burst of shadow that wrapped around her lantern. Liora screamed as darkness crawled up her arms. The silver flame flickered, turning gray. "Liora!" Aaron shouted, trying to reach her. The ground split again, separating them. The storm turned silent, eerily so. Only the faint hum of the gate remained, echoing like a heartbeat too slow. Liora looked at her hands, black veins spreading up to her wrists. The silver lantern pulsed in her grip, half dark, half light. Callan whispered, "Now you see." Every light has its shadow. She fell to her knees, trembling. Her voice broke as she said, "Then I'll carry both." A blinding flash followed, silver and black light exploding from her lantern. The storm screamed. The gate pulsed faster, the hum becoming a roar. Aaron covered his eyes. Callan stepped back, awe flickering in his face. When the light faded, Liora was floating above the ground, her eyes glowing silver. Her lantern had changed, no longer black or white, but something in between, like starlight. The storm had stopped. Everything was still. Aaron whispered, "Liora, what did you do?" She looked at him, her voice calm but not her own. "I didn't open the gate," she said softly. "I became it." The light around Liora softened. The air felt heavy, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Her feet touched the ground again, and the snow beneath her began to melt, forming a shallow circle of glowing water. Aaron slowly approached her. "Liora." She turned to him. Her eyes were still silver, but gentle, no longer cold. "I can hear them," she whispered. Aaron frowned. "Hear who?" She placed a hand over her chest. "The ones who were lost. Their voices, they're all inside me now. The forgotten, the unloved, the ones who faded when no one remembered their names." Callan stood motionless. For the first time, his anger seemed to vanish. "You took them in?" Liora nodded faintly. "Someone had to." The gate behind them shimmered, no longer raging. Its light had dimmed to a soft silver mist, swirling slowly like calm water. Aaron looked at it with awe. "You stopped it? You balanced it?" Liora looked down at her lantern. Its flame was quiet, steady, black and silver, twisted together. "No," she said softly. "It stopped itself. I just listened." Callan lowered his gaze, his voice trembling. "You shouldn't have done that. You can't hold both. The shadow will." He stopped when she looked at him. "I'm not afraid," she said. "Maybe shadows only hurt when they're left alone." The storm clouds above began to break. For the first time, sunlight touched the valley again, pale gold over the frozen peaks. The fallen lanterns rose from the ground, one by one, floating toward the sky. Each carried a faint whisper, a name, a laugh, a prayer. Liora closed her eyes and let them go. When she opened them again, the gate was fading, but it didn't close completely. It remained as a small ring of light, calm, breathing, alive. Aaron looked at her, still weak from his wounds. "What happens now?" Liora smiled faintly. "Now, I stay here." His eyes widened. "What?" "No, Liora," she shook her head gently. "Someone has to guide them. Someone who remembers both light and dark." Aaron took her hand. "You don't deserve this burden." She looked up at the sky. "No one does. But someone has to carry it, so the next soul doesn't have to." Callan stepped closer. His voice was quiet, regretful. "Liora, I never meant for this. I just wanted to be remembered." She turned to him with soft eyes. "You will be. Not for what you did, but for what you taught me." Callan's shoulders sank. For the first time, tears fell down his face. "What did I teach you?" She smiled gently. "That even a shadow wants to belong to the light." He bowed his head. The black glow faded from his eyes, leaving only emptiness and peace. As his form dissolved into silver dust, a whisper lingered in the wind. "Thank you." Aaron stood silent beside her. The valley was quiet now. The air smelled of rain and ash, but also something new. Life. Liora turned to him one last time. "When the next festival comes," she said softly, "tell them to release the lanterns with love, not sorrow. Tell them I'll be watching." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I'll tell them." She smiled, lifting her lantern. "Goodbye, Aaron." The light grew brighter and brighter until he had to close his eyes. When he opened them again, she was gone. Only the soft ring of light remained, floating over the valley. The eternal gate of lanterns, now peaceful. Many years later, when the festival returned, villagers told stories of a silver glow in the mountains. Some said it was a spirit. Some said it was the last lantern that never went out. But Iran knew the truth. Every time he looked toward the mountains, he saw her light flicker, steady, calm, and kind, a light that carried both the sorrow of the forgotten and the hope of the living. And he whispered her name softly into the wind. Liora.